Hello! This video will demonstrate how to create a basic table in an Access 2013 database. This video assumes that the student understands how to create a simple blank database, is familiar with the navigation pane, and is familiar with data types in Access. When you create a blank database, Access will automatically generate a table. A table is the foundational object inside an Access database because it contains all the actual data. The data inside a table is broken down to its simplest form and is placed in rows, which are referred to as records, and columns, which are called fields. A record is a unique entry that contains all of the categories pertaining to either a person, place, event, thing, or idea. The columns, or fields, represent single pieces of information for every record. For example, you could have a first name field or a social security field. In this database, we're going to create a simple customer table. The first field in a table will always be the ID field when Access creates its first table. We're going to rename this field name Customer ID, and to do that, just double-click ID and type in a unique name, in this case Customer ID. When I press the Enter key, that will set the field name and allow me to choose the data type, in this case short text, and then type the field name. We're going to call it first name. Enter. I'm going to choose short text, middle name, enter, short text, last name. Now, as of right now, we are entering data in what's called the datasheet view. The datasheet view allows us to create field names as well as enter actual data or create records in our database. We can also switch the view to what's called design view, which allows us to manipulate each field individually. To do this, come on up to the Fields ribbon. Under the Table Tools ribbon, we're going to choose the Fields tab, and then all the way on the left on the Views pane, we're going to choose Design View. Now at this point, Access will want us to name our table object. We're going to go ahead and give it a unique name, Customer Table. And then you will see that the view has switched. So now we are simply looking at the field names and the data types. In Access, every table has to have a primary key. One field is considered the primary key. By default, the ID field will be used as the primary key, and Access will automatically create its data type to be auto number. Data types will be covered in a separate tutorial, so for purposes of this example, we will leave the customer ID as the auto number. And you know that this is the primary key because you can see the key symbol next to the field name. We'll go ahead and add a few more field names. In this case, we can add address. Then I hit Tab, and I can choose short text as the data type, or choose whichever data type is appropriate. Tabbing again, I can type in city, state, and zip. If I decide I don't want a field, I can select it by placing my cursor to the left of the field name, in this case middle name, selecting the entire field, and then I can press the Delete key. You will notice that if you want to change the order of how the fields are entered, I can select last name and drag it above first name. Let's go ahead and switch back to Datasheet view to enter actual data. And Access will want you to save the table. So you say yes. Now when you're saving objects in an Access database, you're not actually saving the data, but only the design of the table. So because Customer ID is our default auto number, we don't need to enter anything here. We'll just type in last name, Smith, and I can use my Tab key to enter first name, John. We can enter an address, city, state, and the zip. When I click Tab again, it automatically goes to the next record. And we can continue to enter information. so on and so forth. If you can't see all the information in any particular field, I can just double click between the field names to auto-fit the fields. If I wanted to change the font size or the color, I can come to the Home tab, and if I choose a color, it'll change it to orange or green. And if I want to go ahead and change the background color, I can choose gray. You'll see that it changes the color of every other record. Let's go ahead and change the font color to something darker. If you close the table, you'll be prompted to save those formatting changes, but not the actual data. And if you wanted to change the name of the table, you close the table first, then right-click on the object name in the navigation pane and choose Rename. And we'll call it Acme Customer Table. So in this example, you learned the difference between rows, which are records, and columns, which are fields. We talked about the difference between Design View and Datasheet View. We created some unique fields and entered some unique records into our database. We also talked about saving the table object. Hopefully you'll be able to use some of this when creating tables in Access.